Hi, I'm Jeff Todd, President and CEO at Prevent Blindness. Welcome to our Focus on Eye Health Expert series. Joining me today is our friend Christine Gustafson, Executive Director and CEO of the Thyroid Eye Disease Community Organization, or the TED Community Organization. Thanks for joining us, Christine.
Oh, it's just a pleasure to be here. So great to see you.
You as well. Um, so, I look forward to sharing some of your experiences or hearing some of your experiences as someone living with thyroid eye disease or TED. First off, would you mind sharing what some of those first symptoms are that you noticed before you were diagnosed?
So yes, I got Graves' disease and thyroid eye disease together at the same time. And so it was a little bit of a mix of the hyperthyroidism, which is turned out to be Graves', with like the rapid heartbeat and anxiety and my hands shaking. And then I noticed my eyes were changing, and I thought one of them was closing, like it was kind of squinty, it looked like to me. And then I went to my doctor concerned, and I was losing weight. And I'm very athletic, so I'm already pretty small, and I was losing weight on top of that. And so he said, I actually think one of your eyes are opening. And then he asked me a little bit more about, some of the symptoms I have. He said, I think you might have a thyroid disease. So it was not a long process to figure that out. I got the blood test, and they said, the endocrinologist said it was the highest number she'd ever seen in terms of hyperthyroidism, which was shocking because I have such a healthy lifestyle that I rode my bike to her office. I swam the mile that day. Um, she didn't think the numbers were mine. She wanted me to retest. She goes, "This can't be
Wow.
you." And so, but my eyes were immediately affected, and they started this was in 2009, and at that time they thought that your eye symptoms were a part of Graves' disease. It was just one of the symptoms. Like you have a rapid heartbeat, you have big eyes. It
Mhm.
just comes along with it. So it was not separate. It wasn't called thyroid eye disease, Graves' ophthalmology. It's like, oh, you got that symptom. Just like some people get rashes on their shins. I didn't get that symptom, thankfully, but every other one, I was a classic case of both thyroid eye disease and Graves' disease. So yeah,
Got it.
that was the beginning of my hero's journey.
And it's been quite a while. So how does TED affect your personal, social, and work life? And I imagine that's evolved over the years, but could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So right now we have like a community of TED patients, and we had a support group yesterday, and one of the women was telling my story. And she was saying about how a friend came over with her two daughters, and the two daughters looked at her and started to cry and hid behind their mom. And she said it just broke her heart.
Mhm.
And I had that experience over and over again. And one thing, like I kept bottled up for at least 9 years. I didn't tell anybody, but in the locker room where I, go to swim, a little girl said to her mom, she said, "Mommy, is she a witch?" And it's because what had done the thyroid eye disease is it had, anyway, my heart broke in a million pieces. It was like really hard. And I, it's the kind of thing when something happens and you feel like embarrassment and shame, and you're not sure why, because it's not your fault, but it's just a whole mixture of wanting to hide, but not wanting to be sidelined from life. And so navigating it emotionally, mentally, physically, because my eyes were like burning. They were at one point just pretty much dangling out of their sockets. And of course, bright red because they're not protected. And just with the swelling with thyroid eye disease is it swells behind the eye and pushes your eye out. And so I had a lot of swelling behind my eyes. So trying to navigate all of that and with no experience and no one to talk to Just I didn't know anyone that had thyroid eye disease. I didn't know I had thyroid eye disease. I just thought I have a symptom of Graves.
Hmm.
And so I'm taking this methimazole to bring my thyroid numbers down, thinking I'm treating my eyes. So, I mean, it's a good idea. It's certainly could help, but it's not going to fix the problem with my
Yeah.
eyes. And so I hear this all the time now because, we started a nonprofit for thyroid eye disease because there was nothing like that. And last night I got a text from one of the girls and she just said, "Hey, I was going to visit my family and can I give you a picture of my eyes?" She said, "I'm going to cancel because I'm too embarrassed to go." And so we kind of talked it through, and in the end she was laughing and then just went to go see her family. But that's the kind of thing. I didn't have that. It was just me trying to navigate. And like I said, when that little girl said that about, was I a witch? And I thought, not even close. But I had nowhere to go with it. And so I just held it inside. And it wasn't until I was around some kind of community that I said, "Oh, this happened to me." And then I felt like I could tell people what had happened. But before that, that's a long time to feel unsafe.
It sure is. Our work here at Prevent Blindness, um, with TED, with thyroid eye disease, which we started really digging into several years ago, also got us thinking more about the intersection between mental health, mental wellness, and eye conditions. And clearly, you're speaking about that right here. What do you do to care for your own mental health, or how do you recommend others make sure that they're caring for their mental wellness as well as their eye health?
It's such an excellent question. And it kind of leads into like something that we're thinking about is a quality of life program to give people these tools
Hmm.
that have TED because it's the greatest unmet need in our community. And it was certainly for me, it was something that I became very skillful at in that I wanted to have agency in my own healing journey. And I really felt that there was another side to it. I thought, I'm on a journey. I can see that if I just keep going, that it's going to be okay. I don't know how, but I never felt that I was going to have to live out my life like that. And so like mentally, the things that I would do is I developed this very kind voice inside myself. So one of the Grace, I just love her. She has TED. She's in another country, Indonesia, and she said I was hating on myself. And she said, and then I realized that there was a little person inside of me who was just hurting, and I was just hating her instead of caring for her. And so it's this self-compassion, like you learn to have this very gentle, very kind voice. And you get rid of the critical one and the one that says, you should be ashamed of yourself. Look at how you look. That is like, that just has to go away. So I think things like that. And again, like I'm very athletic. So, we talked about depression in our support groups because it's common,
Hmm.
anxiety and depression. But I swim the mile every day, as I said. You can't have depression when you swim the mile every day. It's just not physically possible because it just elevates everything. And it also clears your mind and gives you, I mean, I'm not recommending everybody swim every day, but just there are certain things that you can do, that really help mentally and emotionally. So I've really, through it, I've become very strong and, um, not like I would want to go through it for that
Sure.
reason, but
Well, I really like what you said, Christine, about just being kind to yourself. At the end of the day, you're the only one you have control over. The only one, that you're the only person whose opinions you have control over. That's a great way to start. But
yeah.
let's talk a little bit about some of the advancements. Until a few years ago, there was no treatment for thyroid eye disease. And then a new treatment came to the market. What did it mean for you and those living with the condition when the first treatment was released?
Well, for me, it's like very exciting in that to get my eyes back in their sockets took 7 surgeries. Because there was no medication for it. I understand there was steroids, but I wasn't told about those, and I wouldn't have put them in my body anyway. Um, but for me to look like a normal person, which one physician, ocular plastic surgeon, someone said, "Well, show him your license." It was like I had very few photographs, but I was, usually our license is not anything we want to show someone, that photo. But anyway, it looked better, a lot better than I actually looked with my eyes dangling out. And he said, "Oh, you'll never look like that again." And inside myself, I thought, "But you're wrong." I thought, "You're wrong." And I just moved on because he couldn't see it. I don't want a surgeon that can't see it. And then but anyway, yeah, it took 7 surgeries, putting my eyes back in and then correcting for the double vision. And it was grueling. It's a really barbaric kind of process to go through. And so I heard that there was a medication that that actually takes the swelling away from behind your eyes so they can naturally rest back. So they don't have to go in with scalpels and, all the terrible things that happen. Um, that it just seems miraculous. And then now, as you know, there's other, there's only one medication FDA approved of this type, and there's others coming. And I believe the advantage of that may be that one thing may not work for everybody. So there may need to be different ones in terms of efficacy. So yeah, it's been really great to see. What it does is it makes my story obsolete, and that's a thrill to me that other people would not have to. It was like a 9 or 10 year process. So it was just as a long time to be alone and to be, kind of suffering. I don't mean to say that like some sad story, but it's just I recognize it in other people, and I can see that I could just see kind of the loneliness and the struggle. And for now, we're lucky because we can take that person by the hand and let them know they're not alone. We'll
Yeah.
be with them during the journey.
Yeah. Well, Christine, let's talk about that a little bit about being alone. What advice do you give to, or would you give to care partners or family members of persons with thyroid eye disease in able to tell them how to support that patient?
Yeah. So it's a great question, and the what happens, and it would happen to anybody, because anybody listening to this, like someone with thyroid eye disease is just a normal person. That something went awry in your immune system, and when it did, it caused these symptoms that disforms your face. And you don't really realize, like you might get a blemish and you go, "Oh boy, I've got to get some makeup on that." That's nothing compared to what happens. That when you become so scary that you can't even open the door on Halloween, that you'll frighten the kids, to have to hide in that way. So anyway, there's this tendency to want to pull in and to isolate, just like I said about the woman who contacted me last night, one not to see her family, pulling in, common. But the answer is not to pull in. The answer is to reach out. And so the people around the person that has thyroid eye disease, if they can come to understand that there's a whole person in there that they're not seeing, they're seeing the person on the outside, they're not seeing the person on the inside. Inside, the person is in a lot of pain. I can tell you that 100% of the time, that's the case, is the person is in a lot of pain, a lot of mental conflict, a lot of emotional upset, and there's no roadmap. So you tend to feel like very alone and isolated. So if the people around that person can help to normalize their life, to make a safe space so that person can bring that inner world out, because that's really where the healing and the connection and, quite frankly, where the solutions are. Because when you pull in, it's hard to see the solutions because it spins into a depression, and in worst case, people get suicidal ideation. And I understand why, but it's preventable.
Mhm.
So
Well, yeah, and it's certainly terrific to have family members and care partners understand, but as you well know, it's nothing like being in a community of people who are experiencing the same condition. And as you already alluded to, I know you were a founder of the Thyroid Eye Disease Community Organization. Can you tell us a little bit about that group and why you were compelled to start it?
yeah, so I wasn't really compelled to start it. It would be great if that was the case, but it was an idea just that came up in a conversation. And I was trying to help someone who had thyroid eye disease. By that time, I had met a few people through a um, kind of alternative community. And I was trying to help her. So I was speaking with someone who is in the business of thyroid eye disease. And they said, well, it's so hard for you to find help because there's no dedicated nonprofit for thyroid eye disease. I'm an entrepreneur. I come from the entrepreneurial world. I have a design agency, design websites, graphic design, marketing. I don't know the nonprofit world. So I said, is that important? Just an innocent question, is that important? And she said, very. And when she said that, there was like this, oh, and it's just, I mean, I'm sure it's happened to you, Jeff. It's like there's like a moment of clarity, or the universe just nods, and you just know, like, oh no, don't pick on me. It's like I've got a very busy life. It was just, but it was such a profound feeling that at least I started asking questions and asking around and saying, hey, do you think there should be a nonprofit? And each person I asked, including the Graves' Disease and Thyroid Foundation, they had TED under their umbrella. So I said, hey, you guys have this covered, right? I'm a business person. I understand that. It's covered. And the founder said, no, not well enough. It really needs its own nonprofit. And then I put on an online survey, and they came fast and furious.
Mhm.
And they were like, yes. And I said, what do you guys want? What do you want? Because I build businesses. So it's just a nonprofit. Even though I don't understand the nonprofit world, I know how to build things from an idea. And so I just started. And before I know it, I've got this enormous TED community all around me, and people wanting to connect, and um, just like all the different, we just built out the services they asked for, which is always the best thing, even in business. I mean, give people what they need, what they want, and, you fill that need. And so that's what we've been doing now. We just have been growing in leaps and bounds, because once people find us, that's what they say. Like the woman last night, she goes, I found my people. And it's really part of a healing process, because when you do that, really, I mean, you get the best advice from people who are on that same path. And that's not to negate the physicians, absolutely not, or the pharmaceuticals. That's all really important. But when you're in some of these situations, like the woman on the support group yesterday, whose heart got broken by the two little girls hiding behind the mom, your physician can't help you there.
Yeah. Yeah. So could you tell us a little bit about the services, the programs that the TED Community Organization provides to its members? And I know you're adding new things, seems like every day.
Yeah, we're really pretty excited because as we just moved down the road a bit, like the idea was conceived in February 22nd, 2022, making it pretty memorable. And then we, like kind of took some slow steps forward. But the things that people asked for were the online support groups. We have a Dear TED E. and where you can write in questions, and we have physicians and patient advocates who can answer those questions. So that can be like an anonymous. We have TED Connect, where you can just connect with one person, like a mentor, just someone that you can call like your very own TED buddy. We do TED Art, and that is through Prevent Blindness, in part, which we love and are so thankful for. And so we have in-person workshops where we, like, when we get together, we're building something together. And then we, like, kind of create a collaborative. So our most recent, in about 2 weeks, we're going to be in New York City for a workshop. And what we're working on is, as I said earlier, mentioned this quality of life program where we want to create like 8 modules and that address the most essential needs of the TED patient, and which are presently not being met. And what that would look like is that then the TED patient could be informed along, and participate in their own healing journey. Because that's what we're finding, is that people really want to participate and they just don't know how. There's too much information that's conflicts with each other and they just don't know. And so we thought, well, we'll create that, and we'll find the experts who can come in and teach us and help us customize it to ourselves and create a through line where we can support each other in that in the long term. So, but we're bringing together TED patients as a first step to identify, how, so the in-person ones are not just to get together and they're warm fuzzy, which they are, but they have a purpose to them. And out of it, we're allowed to, we get to grow in scope, and our effectiveness and engagement is really high in the community, very high.
That's just terrific. And I know for us here at Prevent Blindness, we really appreciate the collaboration with the TED community organization. It
Yeah.
allows us each to kind of work in the areas in which we excel and make something even bigger between us. Could you talk a little bit about our partnership from your perspective?
Yeah, yeah. So it's feels more like a family to me. So just, again, maybe my lack of experience in the nonprofit world, but we see you guys as like a big brother, big sister, like they're like helping guide us along. We love your Aspect program where we have people in the TED community now because of, you came to one of our workshops, Jeff, and
Mhm.
you talked about the Aspect program, and we had people sign up for that, and so that they can learn how to be an advocate, how they can tell their story very succinctly, which comes in very handy on our end because, we do get instances where we get little focus groups asked of us. And so that Aspect program is really develops out a whole thing that, anyway, we love that. And then also with the art program that you guys have is also, it's specific to TED patients, and just doing the art and talking to each other, and then also just exploring the feelings behind the art. It can be such a healing, such a neat way to collaborate with others, but also a very healing
Mhm.
thing to do. And something too that's invisible but very important to me is that as a new nonprofit, and me again lacking that experience, is I never quite know how close to the edge I am, and that it's really helpful.
Sometimes that's a good thing.
Yeah, well, I don't know, like it's good to have someone just say, it's like, there's a cliff there. Oh, thanks for telling me. I didn't know. Because I don't, just because I don't know and recognize it. See, in the entrepreneurial world, what you do is you have an idea. Everything's built on ideas. So you have an idea and you just kind of check it out with people. Like, what do you think about this idea? I mean, everybody you talk to, even in the grocery store, excuse me, can I tell you my idea? So just because you want all the different perspectives. And then that idea takes on a life of its own. And then you think, oh, wow, and then you develop it, and it's really an exciting process. But if you're in a different space than what you're used to, it is different in the nonprofit world because there's certain things you can and can't do. It is good to have someone who has that experience that can kind of guide you. There's people on your team who've been instrumental in that for us too, and just said, well, just stay on this path, like so you can express yourself and it's like you're going in the right direction, but just, there's some things to watch for in that forest. So
Yeah, well, Prevent Blindness has been around over 100 years, and we're still learning every day as well. So
mm.
we're happy to be in this with you. So as we wrap up, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share, especially for other people living with thyroid eye disease and maybe those who are newly diagnosed?
Yeah, we did something really interesting on our support group yesterday is we usually start out with the chat, like everybody goes to chat. And so I said, put in the year that you were diagnosed with TED and put in your initial feelings. And so, of course, like shock, terror, uncertainty, worry, like all those different things. And then we talked about that and how it just looks so grim when you first hear about it. But you realize, like right now, if you had to get TED, which I wouldn't wish on anybody, it's the best time because there's so much research going on right now and people looking for solutions and wanting to help. And the level of awareness about thyroid eye disease has gone from about a 2 to a 99. It's so high. And so it's to have that much attention on it and to have a community where you, like for us, the TED community, is tedcommunity.org. For us, everything's free. So there's no cost, there's no membership rules or anything. There's nothing really to fill out. It's just you can just be a part of us if you want to be a part of us.
Yeah,
And
well, that's just terrific. It's such a great program that you have, and we've learned so much from so many members of your community over the years. So I just really want to thank you for your time today. And for anyone looking to learn more about thyroid eye disease or the Aspect Patient Engagement Program that Christine mentioned, visit the Prevent Blindness website at preventblindness.org. And certainly visit the TED Community website at tedcommunity.org to learn more about being involved in their work. Thanks a lot.
yeah, thank you so much.